So, we've got big spending Kaine and Pence the Puritan. I'm not inspired. But the Cato Institute's David Boaz says both of them are better than Trump and Clinton. Really?
Well, that's a low bar. One is a big spending down-the-line liberal Democrat. One is a pretty good fiscal conservative who's also supported the Iraq War and the Libya bombing before he switched and opposed it. And not only opposed gay marriage, he signed a law to make it illegal to apply for a marriage license in Indiana if you were a gay couple. So they're terrible, but neither of them is as corrupt as one of the candidates. Neither of them is as sociopathic as the other candidate.
The Cato Institute, which David helps run, grades every governor's tax and spending record. Only 4 got A's, including Pence. Most governors did far worse. Tim Kaine, when he was governor, got a D. Here's Pence bragging about how responsible he's been.
While the nation suffers under the weight of $19 trillion in a national debt, we in Indiana have a $2 billion surplus, the highest credit rating in the nation, even though we've cut taxes every year since I became governor.
Oh, that's good.
All of that is good. Now, to be fair, he came in after a pretty responsible governor, Mitch Daniels. But, yeah, he's been a pretty good governor in fiscal policy.
He supported a guest worker program. That's good, too. But the social issues, same-sex marriage opposed, even civil unions. In the House, he said societal collapse was always brought about following the deterioration of marriage and family.
Yes, he's been very anti-gay. He's been anti-gambling. He is said to refuse to go to events where alcohol is served without his wife. Apparently, he is tempted by many things.
Here it is in an Indianapolis newspaper. To avoid temptation, build a zone around your marriage. He never dines alone with a woman who is not his wife, and he will not attend an event where alcohol is served unless Karen is there.
That's a personal choice.
Personal choice, if he doesn't impose it on us.
That's right, but it tells you something about the way he looks at the world, that the world is a dangerous place, full of snares and temptations, and he wants to outlaw them all.
He's also a big hawk who voted for the Iraq War, supported taking out Gaddafi in Libya.
Although he did reverse himself about 3 months later on that one. That went sour fast. But what matters with getting us into wars is what your initial instinct is. And he did support the Iraq War, and he did support the Libya intervention.
As did Hillary, so I don't know what our choices are there.
Well, that's right. She's a pretty big hawk, too. She's bad on free speech, she's bad on hawkishness, and she's a big spender.
All right, let's talk about the other guy, Tim Kaine. At the Democratic Convention, he lavished praise on Hillary's positions.
You can see how she'll protect Roe v. Wade, guarantee equal pay for women, and make paid family leave a reality.
Make family leave a reality. Guarantee equal pay for women. In other words, spend money, do something that's impossible. And the first one threw me. She's going to protect Roe v. Wade. But Kaine was anti-abortion at one point.
Kaine is personally anti-abortion, but he's never tried to limit it as a public policy.
He supported the Hyde Amendment, which prevented government funding of abortion.
Well, that's right, government funding.
He was one of the first southern state to ban smoking in restaurants and bars. It sort of goes with controlling personal behavior. Can't the smokers have some bars if the bar wants it?
Yes, and the huge irony is, near me in Arlington, Virginia, there's a restaurant called the Liberty Tavern, and when Kaine moved to do this, he had the owner of the Liberty Tavern stand there and say, we don't allow smoking in our tavern, and it should be banned for everybody.
At the Liberty Tavern?
At the Liberty Tavern.
He doesn't even support legal medical marijuana.
That's right.
Where he's good, he's been for free trade.
He has been pretty good on free trade. He has understood that Virginia is a trading state. He supported TPP. In fact, the very week he was named vice president, he was endorsing the TPP. The other thing that he's been good on is insisting that it is Congress's right and responsibility to decide whether we go to war. And he's been critical of the Democratic president for engaging in war in Iraq and Syria, the war against ISIS, without getting authorization from Congress.
And Hillary does not agree that Congress has to vote for it.
Well, Hillary did say in 2007, she, Obama, and Biden all answered a questionnaire and said the president cannot start wars without congressional authorization. But then they got elected.
We're about to get to the third guy up here, Bill Weld. I ask you on social media what you think about the VP picks. Vachon tweeted, Mike Pence is a warmonger and is okay with the Stasi-like practices of the NSA and the Patriot Act. Now, Stasi-like practices, I think, is over the top.
It is true that he voted not just for the Patriot Act in the heat of war, but to renew the Patriot Act a few years later, when even some Republicans were saying, let's stop, let's think about this.
On Facebook, Gary Ashman posted, I'm puzzled about the Weld pick. He was a Republican governor. How does that qualify him to be a libertarian candidate?
As a Republican, as a governor, he was quite libertarian, at least in his rhetoric. He went to the Republican National Convention and he said, I want to get the government out of your pocketbook and out of your bedroom.
On Facebook, Danny Parks posted, Weld is smart, a constitutionalist. What I like about the libertarians this time is they aren't intimidating bullies or shrill liars.
I don't know if he's comparing them to previous libertarian candidates who might sometimes have been a little shrill. Look, they're not as libertarian as I would like, but they're not sociopaths and they're not invincibly corrupt. That's a low bar, but it's one that the major party candidates can't meet.
Here's another moment from Weld there, 1 year after he was elected.
The Democrats' taxing and spending habits remind me of that old definition of a baby. A huge appetite on one end and no sense of responsibility on the other.
Do these guys have any chance of winning?
Well, winning would be very difficult for a third-party candidate. I have my fantasy. They carry 1 or 2 states. The Electoral College is directly split. It goes into the House of Representatives, and at that point, the Republican members of Congress, and maybe even some of the Democrats, come to their senses and say, not these guys, we have an alternative. Sensible, decent, honest, never there...
Why can't they get off the dime? It's unbelievable. I was sure the public looking at these, Clinton and Trump, would say, what else is out there?
Hillary has $1 billion to spend, and Donald Trump gets free media coverage 24 hours a day. So how do you break into that? It's very tough. That's why we haven't had a third-party candidate elected since about 1860.
Thank you, David Boaz of the Cato Institute.